I didn't lose my marriage overnight. I lost myself way before that. Hi, everyone. It took me a long time to admit this, but my marriage didn't end because of one moment or because of one person. It ended because I disappeared slowly. I'm sure it ended for reasons that involve him too, but that isn't what my journey is about anymore. My journey is no longer about what was good for him or wasn't good for him. I stopped using the tools that I teach years ago, the ones that I know work. I changed. And that's actually today's topic because it always takes two. Even twin souls can fall down so low that they attack each other till there's nothing left to save. So today, I'm getting ready for a full workday. I got client calls, I got content to create, and I'm rebuilding the life that I live now. So while I do that, I thought I'd chat about the part of my story that's way harder for most people to tell. The part where I stop pointing outwards, where I don't place blame and instead I take accountability. Because this isn't all his fault, and admitting that changes everything. So don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe, whatever it takes that you need to do so that you don't miss getting ready with me. Because the truth is, you're never going to know what I'm going to say, and you might just miss that one thing that changes absolutely everything for you. Lord knows, I've been doing that for years. So here's a truth that nobody talks about before I start getting ready. It is far easier to blame the enemy than to look in the mirror and accept your role. But blaming them, that takes away your inner power. And knowing your role without blame or beat up, that raises your inner power. I can't change the things I don't know. So, life gets busy. Right? Like you get so, as I'm doing this, I need to move documents and stuff over. As life gets so busy, right? You're raising kids, you're multitasking and juggling bills. Life is just hectic and crazy. And I want to back up sort of right to the beginning. Right to the beginning, because one of the things about the work that I do is, I sort of teach people how to heal themselves, which, as you can imagine, it's not what I was doing for the last few years. But, I teach people how to heal themselves, and I teach people how to be really successful, and I use my clairvoyance to do it. So for those of you that are just sort of, coming in going, what is this crazy woman doing while she's getting ready every day? I'm sharing stories. But in my career, I've been Canada's top clairvoyant for 35 years. I do radio, I've done TV, I do all that fun stuff. And so I normally in my normal life, when things were hectic, and I use the tools and I become stronger because of them. But I fell down from that. So like I said, you go back to the beginning, right? Because I think that's an important thing to do, at least while you're healing. You don't want to hold on to the past for sure, but while you're healing, you want to understand sort of how all this got here. So this is an important caveat to share in my own personal opinion, okay? When I met my ex-husband, and I apologize for the dings and everything, but I'm doing this all unedited, right? When I met my ex-husband moons ago in my 20s, I was almost 500 pounds. I was like, well, at the time that I met him, I was probably 80 pounds shy of 500 pounds. And by the time I started doing my weight loss, I was 3 pounds shy of 500 pounds. So I was not the same person, nor was I looking for, obviously, what I'd be looking for today. I was a single mom. I was formerly abused. I was looking for someone to take me out of my shit, really. Let's just be honest, okay? I was looking for somebody to escape. I was looking for a daddy figure for my 2 kids. I was looking for that. I was looking to not be alone. I was exhausted and I was looking to not be alone. Simple, full stop. That's what I was looking for. And I did it all right. Okay. When it came to meeting him, I did it absolutely all right. I sat down, I wrote out exactly what I was looking for, did exactly what I teach, right? Wrote down exactly what I was looking for. I put on the bottom of my list, he must be strongly attached to the color green. Just on a funny separate story, I went to one psychic in my lifetime, and she couldn't read me to save her soul other than to tell me that I was a clairvoyant, and that the way that I would know that this person I was supposed to spend my life with was he had a hunter green leather couch. Let's be honest, this was the 80s. Okay. Hunter green leather was a popular thing in the late 80s going into that. I think it was actually the early 90s. It was a popular thing then, right? So anyway, at the bottom of the list, I put he must be strongly attached to the color green, and I let it all go. And understand, when I tell you over this entire series of Get Ready with KJ that I truly believed that I was married to my twin soul, it all went exactly. I couldn't have manifested it better if I freaking tried. Right down to his last name was green, just like the color. That became my married name. So even now, after everything that's transpired, I know without a doubt this was meant to happen. Why it was meant to happen? Don't know. Did we screw it up? Yeah, we did. It was absolutely meant to be. It was meant to be. The person that I am today, after all of this is unfolded, was it still meant to be? Is it still meant to be? No. No, I'm not the same person. And there's these, theories out there, including from me, that twin souls are forever. And they can be. They truly can be. But I think it's so important that we actually, we don't pay attention to the fact that this isn't our play yard, my friends, okay? We're not here on summer holidays. We're here on this earth to learn, to grow, to develop. We've all got contracts. We've all got things that we need to experience and we need to do. We've all got ways that we're going to hurt people. I mean, we're not perfect, right? So the one advantage that I think that I had when it ended, when he walked out the door viciously, and really, when I talk about this, that's the part I actually struggle with, just for the record. The viciously walking out the door. And no, I'm sorry. That's not true. That's the part that I have struggled with. I don't actually think that I struggle with it anymore. I think that I've just accepted that we're, all allowed to do our things, right? We're all allowed to feel how we feel, do what we need to do, and we're all allowed to change our mind. So when I'm, doing this series and stuff, understand he was allowed to change his mind. He was allowed to do whatever he felt he needed to do for himself. That is allowed, right? Just because it's different than what I would have done doesn't make it right or wrong or good or bad. He's allowed to be his own person regardless of who he was married to. And so that's the first thing. But the other thing is we sort of have this theory out there that if we do everything right, if we think we've done everything right, like my situation, he met my list to an absolute T. He was everything I was looking for. I got the perfect signs, all that fun stuff. When everything is right and then it ends, and I don't know a moment or don't necessarily understand a situation where you have that kind of marriage and it ends not badly. Right? Like I'm not sure that I can give you a scenario where you're married to, I've said to people over the last year, like it would have just been, he could have just come and told me he was done. Like he could have just, and that's really a great theory, and I'd love to sit here and say that I'm so altruistic that if he'd have walked in and sat down and had a conversation with me, I'd have been like, oh, I totally understand, baby. Here, let me help you pack. Hey, can I get you a condo? Like, I'd love to tell you that I'm that altruistic, but I'm also a bitch and sometimes crazy. So there is no saying what could have happened. Like, let's keep that in mind. Anyway, we sort of have this theory that when something is so meant to be, when something falls into place and happens in your life so freaking spectacularly, that if something goes wrong, the universe is bad, or I was wrong, that is not who that person was, I had it all wrong all along. We go into this sort of blame the world place, blame the world place. And in the last Get Ready with KJ video, I had said that, he said that he would live in a cardboard box with me. And he did. And it was something that I counted on. But, you know, the thing is, we're allowed to change. We're allowed to change. I changed. I changed drastically. Okay. For the last sort of 8 years, 7 years maybe, of our marriage, between not being responsible for kids anymore because they had all grown, moving, having to make big decisions with him about finances because I was fighting the government, which is something that I'll talk about at a later date. With everything that was sort of going on, and the fundamental shift of life. I went from financially supporting a family of 6, then a family of 8, because we adopted and took on 2 more kids. Big, huge house with a pool in the backyard and all the bells and whistles, and dealing with his health issues. But I was so busy that I didn't try to micromanage or control that nearly as much. Then, COVID hits, and we're both angry and volatile, and you start to see things that you don't want to see, and friendships and relationships that were such an important part of our lives came to a complete and sudden stop, because the same people who got to know me and got to love me because of what I could do to help them are the same people that were judging me and disowning me and eliminating me out of their lives when I was talking about the vaccine isn't good. There's more to COVID than what anyone's saying. And the problem is that, the powers that be are trying to kill people, not save people, right? So again, when I talked in the last session about how my intuition and my clairvoyance is really good when you're hearing what you want to hear, I'm also the demon or the devil when you're not hearing what you don't want to hear. All of a sudden, I'm a quack, I'm a fake, I'm a phony. And that's cool. That's cool. But all of that was going on, right? All of that was going on all at the exact same time. And I got so depressed. I got so depressed. I got angry. I got lost. I got, he got really depressed too. He got negative and moody, and I got so negative. My feelings were so hurt. I was so devastated. I was hearing things like my brother from another mother was mad at me because I didn't let him talk to my kid that I said that everybody was helping raise the way that he wanted to when she was making decisions and choices. And there was just so much going on, right? I was overwhelmed. I was overloaded. I was resentful with the world. I was, tired and exhausted. Never forget, you guys. That time of COVID and lockdowns and fighting because, some people believed and some people didn't, and being told you should tell on your neighbors, and Big Brother's watching, and millions of dollars are being taken from a freedom convoy. It's a freaking train wreck, right? Our world was an absolute train wreck. And so all of that train wreck was happening on top of all of the things that he and I were personally dealing with. Okay. The things that we were dealing with were a lot. The kids were gone, which in one breath was amazing because then it got to just be the 2 of us. You could have sex in the living room. But your purpose sort of fell off the train. And for me, one of the things that happened is my reason, the reason that I had created to manifest and create and do, it disappeared. I had a good reason. I had a big family to take care of, and I was going to take care of them well. So my reason sort of disappeared, you know. They were off doing their own thing as they should have been, and you know, it was just supposed to be, and I remember because he was really excited about that. And I said I was too, and I mean I was, don't misunderstand me, but I also went through the empty nest syndrome at the same time, and that was all, well, things were, you know, going on brutally around us. And so, you know, before I continue my story, if you've been struggling, you know, if you've been having a hard time, if you've been feeling so overwhelmed and like there's just no break around you, like in this world, you're not wrong. Like, you're not wrong. Things have not been easy for anybody, And so just because you're not wrong doesn't mean you shouldn't do something about it, my friends, but you're still not wrong. So there was a lot going on, and through all of that stuff that was going on, I got really low. And I got very depressed, and I felt really out of control. And so, you know, total honesty, I started micromanaging. And so here's the thing. Yes, he asked me to do things. He asked me to take things on, you know, asked me to keep an eye on his well-being. He asked me to pay attention, you know, for the seizures and all of that. But I was so low that I was so scared. I was constantly scared. I was constantly scared something was going to happen to him. I think subconsciously I knew that I had changed a lot and he had changed a lot, and that wasn't for the better. And so as much as my conscious was communicating to myself that we were in it forever and nothing was ever going to happen, I think internally my intuition was telling me a very different story. Because I went through a real period where I was absolutely petrified of losing him, and I would say that of him dying. I never thought that my marriage would end. I was petrified that he was going to have a seizure and die. Something bad was going to happen. And I am the kind of personality that when I go into fear, it used to come across as anger. My kids used to think that I was angry. It used to come across as anger, and all of my kids have some triggers based on that, because when I'd get scared, I'd start yelling and screaming, but it was never anger, it was fear. And so I was scared. I was emotionally scared. So I don't think that I communicated well. I don't think that I treated him the way that I used to treat him. I don't think any of those things happened. And either did he, but again, that's not my circus, that's not my monkeys, my friends, right? Like, for me, I just sort of, I shut down. And just bear with me for a quick second, you guys, because I'm just grabbing, just be patient, because I know that it's harder to hear me. I'm just grabbing things that I need. Because I'm actually going to do my eyes while we're on this talk. Isn't that a novel thought? Why do you ever, I just, like, are you as dysfunctional and disorganized as I am? Like, I gotta tell you, it does not matter how successful I am, my friends. I am a freaking dysfunction. I am a walking unorganized, I think it's ADHD, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, I have the tools I require. So, oh, right, blush. Let's pay attention. So, I had changed a lot, and I'm not going to lie to you. I personally think that the fact that he and I survived 8 years of struggle, I think that's something that should be commended, not torn apart. So, because I was so overwhelmed, because I was so scared, I micromanaged everything. I got scared of him going places, like, you know, the corner store, and I'm worried, right? So I can, and showed that, and was like, oh, you know, are you sure? I can get ready right away. Like, so him and I got into a pattern of neither of us going anywhere, neither of us doing anything, neither of us having a life outside of each other. Not that we had a huge one before, but at least there was stuff, right? I was very lucky. Him and I were very lucky through all of this because, you know, I've had clients that I've had for absolute years. So, you know, they stuck by me, they contacted me, they booked sessions, like, so, you know, I was still paying the bills, but not at all like I used to, right? Like, not at all like I used to. I went into survival mode. So, I mean, everything was still getting paid, and if we wanted something, we did it, but that was it, right? Like, there wasn't extra and stuff. And through my depression and my fear, I'm also going to be honest with you and tell you that I got really resentful. I got resentful from being the one that always had to do it. And this is a mistake that we as women often make. I got resentful for taking on a role that I chose to take on, right? And I got resentful over that. So let me back up with that. When my husband and I got together, first of all, we were toys. We were never looking to have a relationship. And when we decided to have a relationship and I got the sign and all of that happened, we moved in together and all of that. We weren't married yet. We weren't anything when he got sick. I mean, yes, we were, you know, living together and stuff, but we were not, like, I could have left. And when he got sick and everything happened and he couldn't do his job anymore, and I buckled down, and I still remember it. I was like, no, I'll make sure everything's okay. Like, you don't worry about a thing, baby. You just sit at home, game, do whatever. Like, you don't worry about a thing, right? And so 22 years later, I'm spending money like it's water, because screw you if you're going to get access to it. Like, I was resentful. I was resentful for taking on the role I chose to take on. And I'm just going to back up here a little bit, and I'm probably going to tick some of you off, and I'm not telling you what you should think or what you shouldn't think. But in my world, in my belief system, I don't believe that as a woman, I am qualified or prepared to be the one that takes care of everything in a family. Now, don't misunderstand me. I understand there is nothing I can't do. None of that's judgment. There's nothing I can't do. Okay? Like every other woman, hear me roar. I understand there's nothing I can't do. I understand that I can be as successful as I want, but we are emotional creatures, and at least for myself, I create pretty high expectations of myself and of other people. So I am such an emotional creature. Like, I can never be the president like, you can't give me nuke codes. Somebody will have hurt my feelings. We're all going down. Like, I'll push the button. Okay. So being the head of the house, being the supporter, for me was very difficult. And I am naturally, it took me 53 years to figure this out, but I am naturally quite submissive personally. Like, I am, in my brain, the man is the head of the house, and he makes the final decisions, and, you know, it's his bank card that comes out. And so I made sure that I did all of that with Brian. You know, with him, I made sure that, you know, he always, anytime we did anything for the kids, I was always like, Dad said we should do this. And, you know, I did all of that, but I resented it. I resented, number one, that I was giving him all the credit, but felt like outside of housework and meals and running my baths and stuff, which he absolutely did. There was, and, you know, helping with appointments and stuff. I was in it alone. He had opinions, and we made decisions on finances based on things that he was never going to fix or not fix, but I still, you know, took his advice and opinions, right? Like, I became resentful, and I was so low. I really did. I really was suffering severe depression, and I was so low that I got, you know, I went to the one place that I enjoyed and was sort of my escape. And instead of just enjoying poker, which is what I used to do, it was my outlet, right? And so I would take money and go play poker like every chance that I got. Okay, now this is really important. It never, I never gambled the rent, just for the record, right? Like there was always food in the house. Every bill, except for the one that I was fighting, was always paid. I showed up, to the best that I could in the emotional state that I was in. I showed up to my job. I certainly wasn't organized or you know, doing the ins and outs of it as well as I normally do, but my sessions were still good. I mean, that doesn't, regular life doesn't stop the clairvoyant, if you will. So, I was still doing all of that, but I was very checked out. I was very lost. I was very, and then and so that was the first part. And then the second part was I didn't take into consideration that he was going through all of those things too. And so, he was on this rabbit hole of conspiracies and that, as it turns out, weren't necessarily conspiracies, and I'm not judging at all. I don't care what everybody's opinion was. It's fine. We all get to believe what we believe, but he was going down rabbit holes, and I was his person. That's what we had created. I was his person, and I couldn't hear it anymore. Like the more he'd talk about it, the lower I'd get. And so I was getting so frustrated, right? Like I was getting so frustrated, and I was getting even more depressed, and I wasn't paying attention to the fact that he was too. I wasn't paying attention to what he was struggling. I was so busy being frustrated that every time I turned around, he was freaking angry about something, right? And I thought I was communicating it right. I thought I was doing all of that, but when you're constantly crashing, when you're constantly low, when you're constantly, I was depressed, right? So instead, I was spending all my time in the tub. I was doing all that stuff, and it affected him too. And he lost, like, who was he going to talk to then? I know in one of his messages, he said that our cat Harley was his best friend. And so when Harley died, he didn't have anyone to talk to anymore because I didn't want to hear what he had to say. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. It's not, do I think that it's my fault that he stopped talking to anyone else? No, I don't. Do I think that I did it too? Yes, I do. And not only did he not talk to them, but I didn't let him talk to me. And I'm not taking that as blame, because I wouldn't have let him talk to me. What he was talking to me about was very negative, and it was taking me down. And I had clients to take care of. I had bills to pay. Like I was the provider, right? So when you get that depressed and you get that sort of distant in life, you don't see the forest for the trees, right? And again, I am very lucky because I have a client base that I've had for many years, and it certainly got quieter than it had ever been, but it wasn't, we were still able to survive. And there were a lot of people that were in a whole lot worse shape than us. At least, financially and stuff like that. That's important. But I also think it's so important to grasp that you on the outside can look successful, right? The difference in the eyebrows. You on the outside can look successful. You can even be successful. But that doesn't mean that you're succeeding on the inside. Life doesn't just fall apart overnight. It just doesn't. It takes time, and he's not. This is very important. I think for me this was a real awakening, because if we'd have kept going based on the trajectory, based on how we didn't push each other to get things done, how together we had created this communicative talk and this belief system about how wrong and unjust everything was. So we didn't want to get to do it. We didn't want to deal with it. So had we have continued on that treadmill, I mean, we were failing. We weren't just failing in our relationship. We were failing emotionally. We were failing psychologically. We were failing financially. You know, business was slowing down. Like, there was a lot of things that were happening. And had he have stayed, had he have stuck around, had he have done what I said I would have done, we could have lost absolutely everything. We did. Like, there wasn't a whole lot left when he left, right? You know, there wasn't a whole lot left. I wasn't working lots, my friends. I was depressed. And the more depressed I was and the less I could do, then the more resentful I became, and then the more scared I became. And, you know, I would go through periods because I felt so overwhelmed where I'd beg him. Like, I thought he was so smart. So, you know, could you just find a job online? Could you just something, right? And no, I mean, I spent years being told there's nothing he wouldn't do. He'd work 5 jobs if that's what we needed. And then when, you know, push came to shove, it wasn't there. And I'm not blaming him, because that push came to shove was, there was a lot of damage that, you know, nails in the coffin that neither of us, I think, were paying attention to. And then the next thing you know, there's a heart attack and stuff. Like, the reason that I'm sharing this today is because I think it's just so, there is a lot of things that he did, okay, that are unforgivable. You do not do some of the things that he did, and you definitely don't treat the woman you've been with for 25 years the way that he did. Full stop. No doubt about it. But it didn't happen overnight. And I'm not the victim, because there's a lot of things I did that you should have never done. There's a lot of ways that I felt. There was a lot of things that I was fighting and that I wasn't paying attention to or listening to that I should have done something about, right? There was that huge fight with the government that I should have dealt with. Like, I was really in procrastinate and don't deal mode. And if I were him, I would have been absolutely petrified that my wife had turned into a gambling addict. I didn't, just for the record. But if I were him, I'd be convinced that I did. And, you know, I did. I was addicted to a sleeping pill, and I was very distant. And those are things that need to be kept in mind. Now, you know, today in my life, I'm not any of those things. I'm not any of those things, but I'm also not the person that he met or that he chose. And I don't think I could have I don't think that I could have started this journey, started becoming this person that I truly, I mean, I'm 11 months old out, and I look in the mirror, and the woman that I see, like, she's beautiful. Like, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, wow, you're actually really pretty, right? And I don't just think she's beautiful. I think she's strong, and I think she's resilient, and I really like her. And I show up for her. And I have no resentment taking care of her. I don't have resentment at all for taking care of her. I'll take care of her till the ends of the earth. She's me, right? So, you know, I don't have those needs. I am lucky if the regular poker players see me once a month, maybe once every 2 months. I mean, I think in the last 11 months, I think I have been to poker 4 times, right? Like, I don't play very much online. I don't shuffle my chit. Like, I just don't. I feel so present and so alive, and I'm so excited. I know that it wasn't all him, and I understand that catalysts have to happen in our lives. Things need to get cleaned out. I want to see, just while I've got you guys, I want to see if I still have this. There was this post on Facebook that I would just, it's not there, but it's about the year of the snake versus last year, which was the year of the, no, last year was the year of the snake. It's the year of the horse and what the difference is. Anyway, the year of the snake is all about cleaning out and getting rid of and, you know, having to rebuild your lives, which is absolutely what happened in 2025 for me. And 2026 is supposed to be pretty majestic. But here's the thing. I love the majesticness that I've created for myself. Like, I wouldn't have done this for us. I wouldn't have done this work. I wouldn't have made these changes. I wouldn't have dropped the 75 pounds of what I'd gained back. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't be doing the laundry. I wouldn't be doing the cleaning. I wouldn't be doing the cooking. I wouldn't be showing up for my clients, for him. I wouldn't be building for him because I didn't want to. I loved him. I loved him madly. But I don't want to be the one doing it anymore. I really didn't. I really didn't. And my depression won. It just did. You can look on the outside like you have it all together. I mean, nobody knew. Nobody knew what I was going through, but also what he was going through. You can look on the outside like you have it all together. It doesn't mean that you do, right? Like, some of the things I teach, I know so well. I could do it on autopilot. And how many times, you know, do we know better but don't do better, right? That's sort of our nature. So yeah, it wasn't all him. And that's today's story. I had to really take into consideration and look deeply into my soul, and I had to do the work, and I did the work. I have done probably 5 years worth of therapy. I mean, my friends that are still in my life, because I've lost a lot of people, and that's okay. You know, you clear out to make for new. So my family and my friends and, you know, my kids and even my clients are blown away. Like, a person shouldn't grow and develop this fast, but that's what happens when you completely surrender. And the day he walked out the door, I surrendered. Like, it was the ultimate Jesus, take the wheel. It was the ultimate Jesus, take the wheel. And here's the thing. You can call it Kermit, take the wheel if you'd like. But here's the thing. When you surrender, that's when you discover there is nothing you can't do. Legit. Full stop. It's not when you're fighting your way through that you see your strength. It's when you surrender that you do. It's when you surrender that you do. So that's my story this Thursday, and I'm going to go and continue to get ready. And my next one, I'm going to share some more of the dirt. But today I wanted to share my role. So I hope you guys have an absolutely blessed day. And I can hardly wait till our next time together. And until then, you know, keep trucking on, you guys. If you want something you never had, you got to do something you never done. Don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe, do all of those cool things. I'll talk to you real soon. Bye, guys.